Hello, FedPhoenix fam. So, I wanted to hit y'all with another prison story this evening. And this one is not funny and it's a little bit disturbing. So, if you're a person with a notably weak stomach, this probably isn't a video that you want to continue watching. So, fair warning. And all my videos, when I upload them, I mark them not for children, for an 18 and over audience. So, but I also understand that there are plenty of grown folks who have sensitivities to particular things. So, having said that, and I also want to put out the disclaimer that under no uncertain terms, I never, ever am judging a person for their religious preference. If something brings you peace and it's not hurting anyone, and even especially if it's making you a better person, I fully encourage you on your journey. And I also am not one to throw shots at mental illness. Anyone who knows me knows that I struggle. Who knows me very personally, I guess, would know that I have some struggles of my own, and so I definitely don't take that lightly. So, because these topics will be so trigger warning, this will be graphic. It will include mental illness, and it will include unconventional religious preferences. So, having said that, let's hop right into it. So, I think I'm going to call this one like altars and egos. Altars is in like the worship thing. Egos is in just people and their nonsense. So there were two altar situations that notably occurred when I was incarcerated. The first one is minor and less, what probably didn't even need a trigger warning. But there was one situation where a woman, and I believe she identified herself as Wiccan, in which there are a surprising number of Wiccan women in the women's, Fed camp I was at the time. But anyway, she had found like a dead bird, like there was still like skeleton and feathers, but I think it was mostly like dried out. And she had put it in her locker, and she got in big trouble for that because she had said that she collected this corpse as part of like an altar of sorts for religious purposes, in her locker, and it was protected by her religious rights. The prison did not see it that way, and she got in trouble. My thing is, unless it's like rotting flesh and bugs and stink, who gives a crap? I don't. And if you're not hurting anybody, have at it. But, I didn't know the person personally to say whether this was a legitimate thing or like an attention seeking thing because, prison is very boring. It's very monotonous. And a lot of people, will do all kinds of weird stuff to try to get attention or, when there is no drama for them to be involved in, or that they want to comfortably get involved in, they will create their own. So I don't know about that one, but that was kind of bizarre, in the day to day. So here's the big story. Here it comes. So there was this woman. Her first name was Ellen, and she told everyone call her Auntie, pronounced Auntie. Some people say Auntie, but she would say you can call me Auntie. Call me Auntie. So, that's kind of what we called her. She was the person who had a few different accents kind of on rotation. Working for religious services, I can say 100% that, she would change her declared religion very often. And more often, when you talk to her, what country she was from, what her religion was, all that kind of information kind of just changed frequently. And I do think there was some level of mental illness in that situation, with her. But I think a lot of it was really played up. I think that maybe she had some appeals planned or maybe she was hoping to get Social Security when she came home. I don't know, based on her prison records. And then one of the things with Auntie, before I get to the altar situation with her, that really kind of struck me is at one point, we were cube neighbors. She was my side bunkie, meaning that her cube was next to the cube I lived in. And a lot of people in Outer Sin, we all have this little like cork board in our cube. And you and your bunkie, you split the cork board in half, and you can hang up, your family photos or little inspirational stuff or whatever. And a lot of women like still construction paper to have a background and, that kind of thing. But so one day she wanted to show me her grandchildren. And I knew she had an adult son. So, this all made perfectly good sense at the time. So she's like, hey, I want to show you my grandkids. Come in my cube. Come look. I got pictures. My son sent me pictures. They're up on my board. And I said, oh, okay. And I go in there, and there are these six very similar looking, beautiful children. And they were very cute. And Auntie also would say that she had been in the military, and she had some trauma from her experiences in the military. Whether that was true or not, I honestly don't know. And I'm usually a pretty good judge of those kind of things to a degree. But there was so much with her that didn't add up. And then sometimes she would say she was former Navy, former Army. So it really, there was a lot going on there. A lot to unload, a lot to unpack. But and keep in mind too that she's also a very manipulative person in general, very underhanded, definitely someone who would come to you with gossip about someone else and hope that you contribute to it so she can go back to that person and just tell the part that you contributed and start mess. So anyway, she says, oh, come to my cube, I want to show you my grandchildren. I'm like, yeah, okay. And there are these six babies, and they're really cute. And she says, oh, I like to make them plates of white rice with ketchup, and which, again, ain't no telling with this lady. So I'm looking at the pictures. I'm like, oh, they're adorable. They're adorable. And she said, yeah, they've really helped with my PTSD. Okay. She said, yeah, I bought them, right after I got indicted. And my son takes care of them for me now while I'm incarcerated and periodically sends me photos of them. I ask him all the time to send me photos. And I said, you bought your grandchildren? Come to find out, and I didn't, this is why I didn't catch it at first. These beautiful children were not, in fact, children. They were like those baby alive dolls or reborn dolls. I think reborn is the term, that look like freakishly like human. So she had a collection of half a dozen reborn dolls that she had purchased herself shortly after she had been indicted, that she said that she, considered her grandchildren. And she took care of and bathed and dressed and made plates of real food for, and her son was taking care of them in her absence. And it was in that moment that I thought, okay, either there's a whole lot not jiving with this woman, you know what I mean, mentally, or probably more of an and than an or situation. Or she's really trying to present, because a lot of people in prison have like this alter ego, this persona that they're crazy, or they're tough, or they're wealthy, and they're actually not in the real world, or whatever they think it is that they think will somehow make their prison experience easier or allow them to gain something after their prison experience from it. So, but it was in that moment that I was like, oh my, like whatever's going on here, even if it's completely fabricated, she is very invested in it. So, and it was weird too, because a couple other people that I was, close with, I said, "Do you ever notice the pictures of the babies in Auntie's room and, or, in her cube?" Because we didn't have doors and the walls didn't go to the ceiling or anything. And they'd be like, "Oh yeah, those babies are so cute." I'm like, those are reborn dolls. And people were like, "Shut up. No stinking way." And I'd be like, yeah. So here comes the altar story. I just want to give a little backstory so you can really kind of understand, what we're working with here. So there was this girl that came in, little blonde thing, clearly upper middle class, kind of delicate, which prison will just scrape the delicate right off you. And it was kind of funny because when they first brought her in the unit, well, not really, I guess it's sad, but it was entertaining for me and many other people. When they first brought her in the unit, they put her with someone who was very loud and abrasive and aggressive and just, a whole lot. And then from that cube, she had went to the staff and was like, not the COs, but I think like the building manager or her case manager or something, and was like, holy crap, you have to get me out of here. So at the time, Auntie and her current bunkie were fighting because I think Auntie had been stealing from her current bunkie, and, just all kind of craziness was going on. So their solution was to move the Auntie into the cube with the delicate flower. And like I said, Auntie is a whole bull of nuts. The previous bunkie this girl had wasn't really mentally off at all. She was maybe a little bit, intellectually impaired, but she was just really loud and tacky and aggressive, and So then they move Auntie in with her, and of course Auntie was livid because Auntie's bunkie had been asking for another cube assignment, as I suspect Auntie had as well. But I think how Auntie thought this was going to play out is her current bunkie, the one she didn't go along with, would get moved and she would get the cube all to herself again, because she had a cube to herself for quite some time, and that's like almost a luxury thing in camp. So they moved this girl in with Auntie. Auntie doesn't want a bunkie. So, and mind you, this was shortly after the original dead bird in the locker altar situation had become well known around camp. So one day, and mind you, I worked for religious services. So the chaplain and I were very familiar with one another. And this was in my unit. So one day I'm walking down the hall, right? And the delicate flower was on the top bunk, because it was also a privilege to have a bottom bunk. And most people, knowing this going into federal prison, just say they have a seizure condition or some type of situation where the BOP kind of has to give them a bottom bunk because they know that it makes life a little more comfortable. So anyway, so the sweet girl was on the top bunk and Auntie had the bottom bunk, and Auntie was not happy about the whole even having a bunkie, period. And the girl's sitting up there on her top bunk, because, mind you, the walls are only like 5 feet high. So you can top bunk people all day, every day. They are just visually exposed to everyone. So she's on the top bunk and she is just looking just terrified. And the chaplain didn't know much about a lot of religions other than just like basic Christianity and a little bit about other ones. But she mostly was, and she was the non-inmate head of religious services. She was very, pro-Christianity and almost to a fault, I would say. But and didn't really make it a point to know much about the other religions, even though it was her job to coordinate, the religious services for a camp of, and I think the BOP recognizes like a dozen religions as legitimate. So for a dozen different religions and hundreds of women. But anyway, saying all that. So I walk by and the girl is just like deer in the headlights, confused, traumatized, just looking all kind of crazy. And there are a couple COs standing by the entrance to her cube. But, I'm thinking, oh, they're just shucking and jiving, or they're just whatever. There was really no cause for alarm yet. Then the chaplain, as I'm walking down the hallway, comes in the unit in my building. And she said, "Hey, Thompson, come here." And she knows, she knows me. Obviously, I work for her. And she knows that I'm pretty well versed in most major religions. And she said, so she explains to me what's happening. I'm going to tell you what's happening in a minute because it's crazy. She said, "Is this actually a religion thing?" And I said, well, the BOP does not recognize hoodoo or voodoo. They do recognize Santara. So, which is kind of like a Spanish kind of mesh of Catholicism and voodoo. So I said, maybe Santeria, but that doesn't sound right for that either, quite frankly. I mean, it really just sounds like this is another one of her episodes where she's putting on a show. And she said, "Okay, well, I just wanted to check with you before I, proceed," because they'd already told her what she's about to walk into. And the chaplain was not someone who had a seemingly rough life. So she also was kind of sheltered. So now that I know what's going on, I'm kind of watching up the hallway because I'm like, oh, this is about to be so good. I don't even want to see because I'll probably get sick, but I know what's happening. And, And so the chaplain goes over to the COs and she's like, because they had actually called her on their walkie-talkies and said they needed her in the housing unit. And so she's down there and she's telling them, she's like, no, this is not any legitimate religious thing. And even if it is, we don't condone this. This is not acceptable in this environment, blah, blah, blah. What Auntie had did is she wanted to definitely scare or intimidate, this very delicate new roommate she had, cube mate, into like begging to get out of there with her so she could have a cube to herself again. And this time it was a cube with a window. So, which is really like, whoa, 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 your own cube and a window cube. Oh, that's posh. That's pretty high end, in a camp. What Auntie had did, and this is where things are going to get real funky. So again, if you have a weak stomach, it's time to check out. But what Auntie had did is she collected random sticks, rocks, things of that nature. Maybe some acorn hats, I don't know. And made a little pile on the desk in the cube. Now, mind you, there's only one desk in the cube. It's a very small little thing. Doesn't have open or have drawers or shelves or anything. and there's like a little metal seat stool kind of thing of sorts, and it's all one piece, and it's all like welded and bolted to the floor. And you and your bunkie share this desk. So, and it's a tiny little thing. But anyway, she had made this altar. Allegedly, that's what she called it, her altar. And insisted it was for religious purposes. Although I think at the time she was registered with us with religious services as maybe Jewish or Muslim. I don't know. I don't know what it was at the moment. Like I said, it was a pretty rotating thing. But she gathered all these random kind of nature things, made a pile of them on the desk, told her bunkie, I am making an altar for my religion, so you cannot use the desk. And of course, this girl was not going to argue or fight with her about a desk. She just wanted a little bit of peace, poor thing. But, I'm making this religious altar. You cannot use the desk and, deal with it pretty much. Then what she did, and I have to kind of prepare myself for this, is apparently Auntie it was that time of the month. She was on her menses. And it's unclear. It seems as though she used not only her used feminine products, but possibly, most likely, dug through the trashes in the bathrooms and got other people's as well to have enough blood to do this. And then she squeezed it out all over this altar in the desk. So it's dripping with human blood. And it's not just any human blood. It's human blood of a certain nature, a certain graphic, disturbing nature. I hate to even tell the story a little bit because it nauseates me a little bit. And so, of course, when she did this, the delicate flower bunkie very calmly and quietly got down off her bunk and went and got a CO and was like, holy F-bomb. This is insane. And this is what she has done. You have to get me out of there now. Of course, the new bunkie was thinking, oh, this means she's dangerous. She wasn't dangerous, not even remotely. In fact, I think she had started a few little arguments with folks, and she was pretty quick to back down. So, But yeah, and needless to say, not only did the delicate flower get moved out of the cube, so Auntie got her own cube, but they, after religious services confirmed this was not a legitimate religious situation, they then sent her down to psych, which we didn't have a psych unit. We had there was a psychology office and, a building that had a few offices that were psychology related. Most of the group meetings and stuff would be in this basement, and I only had 2 staff. It was not, but they did send her down to psych, I think, for some kind of to assess if it was safe to keep her on camp, which they obviously knew it was. Because, you don't have to have a degree to kind of see through this and see it for what it is. But yeah. And I want to call this Alters and Egos, this video, because this woman, with all of her madness, was, in her inconsistency, was certainly someone who, in all of her personas, was quite the inflated personality in all of her stories and backstories. But yeah, that was hands down definitely in my top dirty dozen of prison things, other than sewer, the plumbing backing up and sewer literally coming out of the shower floors as we were taking showers. I mean, that was definitely, though, the Auntie's Altar is certainly in my top dirty dozen just repulsive situations encountered while incarcerated. But yeah, it's a heavy one, right? It's pretty gross. I think I'm actually going to put a warning with the title because not everybody's ready for that. I wasn't ready for it. I'm telling you the story and I'm not ready for it. And I already know what it entails. So, but yeah. So if you're going to federal prison, even a camp, you may encounter an auntie character who decides to make an Auntie's Altar one day. Actually, I'm just going to call this Auntie's Altar because I think that's more accurate. Even though the first altar story had nothing to do with her, but you get it. And just mentally be prepared to be painfully indifferent. Mentally be prepared to just numb yourself to any normal human reaction to a whole lot of things, including the flavors of just crazy and nonsense you will see. Some legitimate, some fabricated. Sometimes you don't even know which is which. So having said that, my Cash App and PayPal will be in the description if you'd like to donate to the channel. as we'll link to the merch line if you would like to represent the FedPhoenix fam and support, my journey, and, my growth, as you guys know, I'm working on a book. So I'm really kind of hoping to make this FedPhoenix thing at some point, something more than just me, rambling on short YouTube videos. Oh, and FedPhoenix also has Instagram, which I think the icon thingy on the phone now is like an X. I don't know why, but whatever. Or is that Twitter? Maybe it's Twitter. The one that has the black X now. Yeah, it's like the new Twitter. So there is FedPhoenix on Twitter. I don't get on there much, but I do occasionally put stuff on there. So anyway, so if you've been incarcerated, did you have an auntie or an auntie's alter situation? Because, whoo, baby, those are rough. And my email will be in the description as well. If you need to contact me for any reason at all, please do not hesitate. And yeah, it's a nasty one, but even though that is one of the most stomach turning encounters while incarcerated, I can certainly say it was one of the most unique. So good for that. And the obvious motives behind it were achieved. So as much as I find it repulsive and unsettling, I don't know that it wasn't smart. I mean, and I think that and Auntie was not an unintelligent person. She was a fairly intelligent person. So it's incredible. And when you've been so institutionalized for so long, that the little comforts that would seem like just trivial to people in the free world, like having your own cube, or having a cube with window, that you would go to those kind of extremes to secure that. It really speaks to the psychological damage that institutionalism, perhaps is the term, really creates in people, the desperation. And that, I think, is something that we all need to take away, and as a notably concerning factor in the story. So having said that, good day, God bless, whatever you are going through. It is a slice of your life, and you will get through it because you have to. So goodbye for now, FedPhoenix fam.